Just when it looks like things are going fabulous for the West Virginia men's basketball team, they get hit with even more bad news. This time, it was the news that came out that guard Jose Perez is no longer on the basketball team. Well, Mountaineer Paul and I are going to discuss that right after this word from our sponsor.
This episode of Hoops from the Hills was brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time.
With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for.
Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
What is up, college basketball fans, members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz.
And my name is Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you another episode of
Hoops from the Hills, baby.
What is going on out there, guys? We are glad to be back with you for another episode. I think this is our second one in less than a week's time, Paul. It's a miracle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's football season. That's my
right,
excuse
baby.
when anybody ever asks me.
Well, and it's the truth, to be honest. It's
yeah.
That's kind of been our focus lately. But
yeah,
some news about the basketball program came out earlier in the week or a few days ago. Maybe late last week would be a better word for it. And we're just now getting around to doing a show about it, Paul. And it's the Jose Perez news, man. Jose Perez has been basically, for lack of a better term, kicked off the West Virginia basketball team. Huge blow to the team, in my opinion, from an on-court perspective. Really going to hurt their depth at both the 2 and the 3, because I think he would probably play both. And, takes a score off the court, a guy who would be an offensive weapon for us probably. So what are your thoughts on that, on Jose Perez no longer being a part of the basketball program?
What an odd, he'll go down in infamy, in a lot of ways. I think Tabita Finau is kind of similar in that you heard a lot about him, never got to see him play. And I think that's with Jose Perez. It's the same thing. All the hype and no gravy, baby. I can't remember in history, and I don't know for any university if they've ever had a guy be in their program for 2 full years or close to it and never play a down or a snap or a dribble. So I think that's interesting. And he was very, very active on social media through all of this. So there's a lot. I think he is polarizing in that a lot of people drew the line on how they felt about the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the locker room, though, from everything we've been told or I've been told, he was a very well-liked individual in the locker room, kind of the de facto leader at points. One heck of a recruiter. He was batting almost 1,000 on the recruiting trail. A cook, apologies, is in Morgantown because of one man, Jose Perez. Omar Silverio was in town because of whole big Jose Perez, where that blew up. And this is just, it was Omar, now it's Jose. It was the guys that left, and now we really need the Raekwon battle thing to play out favorably for us, or else this can turn into, from what was looking like, for a Mountaineer perspective, a team that had a Sweet 16 potential or beyond, to, is this a tournament team now? There's a few good pieces, but there's some weaknesses all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, man. This Raekwon battle waiver it's been crucial from the beginning. Like you and I talked about on a previous show, he's a top, some outlets have him as a top 100 player in the country. And for him, if that waiver gets denied, we're going to have a huge, and I don't want to say a hole, because we do have players to play there, and they're not bad players. But his talent is just at another level, man. I mean, all you have to do is turn the tape on, turn the highlights on, and you can see it. He jumps out of the gym. Yeah. He can jump out of the gym. I mean, his athleticism is unlike anybody else on this roster. Josh Eilert has even said it himself. He's the best athlete on the team. Right. And we need that guy. This team needs that guy. They need a guy like that. And
Yeah,
He can score the basketball. Jose was going to be another scorer. Uh, this would put if Raekwon battles waiver gets approved, it's going to put even more pressure on him to score the basketball, in my opinion. I'm not saying he can't handle it, but my point is that's how important he is to this team. We need that waiver to be approved, and if not, it'll just. But I'll be honest with you, I've gotten so accustomed to bad news, I don't even expect it to get approved. I'm already prepared. I've already prepared myself to accept or try to accept a waiver that gets denied because that's just how I see it going.
yeah. And you look at Raekwon. I mean, even though we're talking about Jose, Raekwon is a combo guard. He can probably play with 1 through 3, but definitely the 1 and the 2. And can score at all 3 levels. He's got a really
Mhm.
good mid-range game. He can score at the rim on an elite level. All kinds of miraculous up and under moves. He can dunk. I mean, you go watch the tape. He can really throw it down. Actually, West Virginia just released a highlight tape of their own about the boys practicing. Might have been yesterday,
Mhm.
but or today even. I don't know. It was one of the last couple of days where he threw down a heck of a dunk in that tape just on the West Virginia X channel. So if you want to check that out, see what he's all about. Showed him shoot. He's got great form on the shot. He's truly a guy that I think a lot of people are expecting to take a leap and be a 15 to 20 points per game kind of scorer. That's what you're expecting from Raekwon. But if it wasn't already in solid stone that he was going to do that, well, his usage rate is going to go way up now because
Mhm.
Jose Perez is a guy that dominates the ball. And you wonder, I think a lot of people have questions about how did Jose Perez fit into this?
Mhm.
You've got, excuse me, you've got Kerr Kriisa, who is a very passing player. You've got Quinn Slazinski, who is a spot shooter for the most part, that you can throw down low every now and again and get a shot out of. You've got Jesse Edwards, who's more of a rim runner, guy that cleans up garbage. A Cook is a guy that's a spot shooter that also cleans up garbage, and he's a rim runner. You start to look around the roster, there's not a whole lot of ball dominant players.
Mhm.
Well, Jose Perez and Raekwon Battle are two ball dominant players, and they were probably going to be getting the majority of the usage rate, whether that be starting offense, whether that be coming off the bench for offense, however they were going to do it at points in the game, whenever they did the substitutions in and out, whether that be coming off pick and rolls, expecting to shoot, pass off that. There are just so many things that you can do with guys like Jose Perez and Raekwon Battle. And so now that Jose is gone, it's going to be on Raekwon to really start, initiate offense for this offense. I mean, obviously that's going to start with Kirk Risa, but he's not going to be the guy ending with the shot
Mhm.
most
Right.
likely. So
Right.
that's where Jose Perez is going to be special. And I think, that he's played point guard in his career. He could either spell Kirk Risa. He could have played the 3. He could have played the 2. He's really good at posting up smaller guys. But I think a lot of people did have questions about how he would flow into this offense, was my point. I kind of went off track a little bit. But Jose by far was going to be the most ball dominant player on the court whenever he
Mhm.
was on the court. And I think with the a bunch of unselfish guys, it could have maybe throw a little cog in that. Some people see this as a positive from an offensive flow standpoint. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. You always need guys that can score, and he averages 18 a game, although at a level down. Take 6 off even. Take 8 off. That's still 10 a game. I mean, he was going to do numbers. It's a loss. It's not
Yeah.
definitely not. I don't think it's addition by subtraction in this
No,
situation,
I
like
don't
some
think so
people
either.
are um, trying to say. I mean, he was he a liability on defense? Maybe. I think he would have been coached up in that aspect, but at the end of the day, he was sort of a distraction, and I think that played a part. And then there were other things that we can get
Yeah.
into if you want.
Yeah, and that actually segues into the next part, the next section or segment, and that's they asked Josh Eilert about the situation today at his press conference, and he said basically, I can't say a lot about it because of privacy laws and protecting the players' privacies and things like that. But he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I have certain non-negotiables that I have relayed to this team from the very beginning, And if you violate those non-negotiables, I can't have it in a nutshell. And that's now we don't know exactly what happened, but there's a lot of stuff has come out. Jose put out his own message on his Twitter account or his X account that basically said he felt like he got kicked off the team for skipping a study hall. Now I'm pretty confident there's a lot more to the story than that. Number one, with this team, with all they had invested, there it is. Matter of fact, with all that this team has invested, not only time but money wise to Jose Perez. I mean, you look at the NIL money he was getting from Country Roads Trust. You look at the resources and expense that was spent from a staff to recruit all the guys that they had him out recruiting guys as far as entertaining them when they were in Morgantown and things like that. Recruiting Jose multiple times. I mean, remember he went into the portal after Hugs left. They had to go re-recruit him again. So that takes money, right? So all the resources that they spent,
more importantly, a spot.
Correct. Yeah, they had a spot for him. They held his spot, and they could have very easily let him walk, and they didn't. So the resources, the time, the money that this program spent on Jose Perez shows you how valuable he was to them. They're not going to kick him off the team for skipping one study hall. I'm sorry. That's just that's not feasible to me. There has to be more to the story. You and I have heard through our back channels that there is more to the story. Is there anything you want to say along those lines?
A kid that's already graduated feels like he shouldn't have to go to class. I think that's the nuts and bolts of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Other situations that have come about, I don't feel like I want to speak on here, but this was basically the straw broke the camel's back, and apparently this disagreement became more and more heated. I think you've got a player that feels like almost invincible in this situation. Like, what are you going to do? You need me, kind of thing. Kind of playing the bluff kind of card on that, and I think his bluff was called, and I think he was probably pretty shocked and hurt that it was called, and that's what happens. This is an extenuating circumstance because I think you got a guy that tried to go to the portal in August and use that leverage, ruffled some feathers in that aspect. Then you find out, well, there's nobody better out there. We got to bring him back, even though we know it's a little bit of a distraction. But he's a great player, and all the locker room loves him and all that. This is just what I'm hearing. This is not necessarily my opinion. And so I think rough feathers were already ruffled because I think, some people believe he was one of the people saying, hey, keep Josh Eilert and I'll stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet you still try to leverage the portal. And some people say, well, he's supposed to do that, right? Why would you not go look for your fair market value? But to me, I think people were still rubbed wrong by that. So there was just a few things that come into play here. And I think that was one of them. Along with the refusing to go to class thing or study hall. At the end of the day, like we were talking earlier, Couz, is going to class one of the only parts of amateurism that we have left. And, think about this. You're giving these kids money, which they earn. I'm not saying they're not. These kids don't have a lot of rules to abide by, and they have all the power in these situations. And so are they being set up for failure to think that they are a little bit more above the law than they actually are in these situations? It's just something to think about. Was Jose Perez done a little bit of a disservice because of the way he's been treated and probably felt like he was just a little bit more above the law? Just an observation. I'm not saying that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Just posing a question. You could ask it about any player.
Right. No, it's fair. I mean, you see it all the time with famous athletes who break the law multiple times and just continue to, feel like they're above the law to a degree. And
Right.
Josh Eilert said today, I've got to do what's best for this program. Whether it relates to me, my staff, the players, anybody, I have to do what's best for the entire group. So that's why you have to set lines in the sand, so to speak, or non-negotiables as he called it, because you cannot just have this loosey-goosey program where everything goes And that goes with anything in life. So I feel like this is, even though this is going to suck for Jose Perez, and I hate it for him, and I hate it for this team and the program, but it's going to be an important life lesson for him going forward as a young man who's, he's 25, but he's still a young man to me. It's going to be an important life lesson for him to take with him going forward. To say, hey, man, sometimes you can't get away with whatever you want to, assuming that's what was going on here. Like, again, we weren't in the room, but we're going by what we've heard behind the scenes and what's even been out on social media. There's been some things out on social media.
Right.
Some of it may be accurate, some of it may not be, but I think the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's what they say.
but yes, but nonetheless, he obviously did something he wasn't supposed to do, and
Yeah.
broke a rule that couldn't be broken, and he's unfortunately having to pay the consequences. And hopefully he'll take that and use it in his life to learn from and move forward and hopefully become a better person from it. And as far as the program goes, now people like Seth Wilson are going to be expected to step up and probably
Yeah.
play more minutes. People like Kobe Johnson are going to have to step up and play probably more minutes. Maybe even Ofri Nave, who may be asked now to step up and play maybe even before they wanted him to. Josh Eilert even talked
Right.
about him today in his presser. He needs to put on about 30 pounds. But he said, other than that, Ofri Nave is going to be a contributor to this team this year. And we'll get the weight on him, and he will contribute to this team. So he may be asked to do that even more now because of this Jose situation. What are your thoughts on that?
You and I were told by somebody that we can trust extremely, that I mean, there's very trusting, that certain people on this team were limited, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really caused me to be concerned about, whether it be a Seth Wilson or a Kobe or something like that, because we were told by somebody that would damn sure know that they're limited, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean they can improve, but you're saying they're being asked to step up, and yet and still we're being told they're limited by somebody that would know. It's something that worries me. I'm not just going to say. Uh, I have faith in the kids, and certainly one person's opinion doesn't define them. That's for sure. But and they have all, it's all in front of them, and hard work never hurt anybody. And I'm not saying they can't do it, but it does give me cause to pause here. So Osprey Nave is an extremely gifted and talented kid that has no seasoning. He has a ton of European seasoning, but that's not the kind of seasoning we use over here. And in the Big 12, not going to work. So 30 pounds at least for him. And Slazinski as well. If I'm going to throw him in there, he's still a little, you know, what they were doing at Iona is not what they're going to do at Baylor. Excuse me. So I think that's going to be one too. But they've got time. At the end of the day, they've got some time to get these kids. If they're really bought in and willing, they can do it. You don't replace a Jose Perez because you can't replace a Jose Perez. You go from, let's say it was 13, right? Well, you're at 12 now, and you're going to stay at 12 unless somebody walks on. There's not another scholarship coming unless somebody reclassifies from next year somehow, and they're probably not going to be able to contribute either, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you said, we're going to need guys to step up that may not have people. Some people may not have the most confidence in, but that's still in front of them to do.
Yeah. And, Josh Eilert, surprisingly, in his press conference today, Eilert was asked about, some of the guys that were already on the squad, the non-transfers.
Yeah,
And they had a scrimmage on Saturday, and Kobe Johnson, Josiah Harris, which is one I forgot to mention earlier. He said Josiah has looked really, really good at practice. Maybe the best rebounder on the team right now. But Josiah, Kobe, and Seth were on the same team against Kerr and Jesse and Raekwon. Their team won the scrimmage. It made me feel better about the situation. Now, what Eilert talked about is their chemistry together. They were playing so well together, they were able to, beat this other squad. Now, the other squad did come back and tie the game after being down 12. and forced it into overtime. But I think ultimately Josiah, Seth, and Kobe's team ended up winning. But nonetheless, that makes me think these guys might be better than us, the fan base, may be giving them credit for. Maybe these guys have worked their tails off this off season and are coming in, and they see all the talk about Raekwon Battle. They see all the talk about Jose and about Jesse and these other guys, and they might be taking that personal, saying, you know what? By gosh, this is a challenge. I'm going to go out and prove I belong on this team and that I deserve minutes too. And if they did
I
that,
think
like
that's a
you,
great point.
if they did that, which maybe they'd have, and it seems like they're the type of guys who did. And based on reports we've heard, some of those guys have been spending a lot of time in the gym. If that's the case, this team might even be better than we think, even without Jose and Raekwon. Not saying they're
They're
not
going to
needed.
have to.
Yeah, they'd have to be. You're right. But I just think that I'm really excited to see where those three guys specifically are, Seth, Kobe, and Josiah. I'm really excited to see where those guys are after another off season in the program, and with this new staff. This new staff could make these guys blossom, you know. And
Right.
speaking of Kobe, another thing Josh talked about is they asked him who will be your on ball, lockdown defender now that Keaty's not on the team, and he said without a doubt it would be Kobe Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's who I would have said anyway.
yeah,
He's,
absolutely.
he's 6'4", 230 probably. He's just he's similar to Gabe Osamoyan, not quite as tall and lengthy, but that's who I would care. I would say he has that kind of potential for sure.
Mhm.
And he's always been. The thing is unfortunately he's so limited offensively in the past. That's really played a factor as to why he hasn't played as much. And everything we've heard is he's improved leaps and bounds on the
Mhm.
offensive end. And if he can become a 6 to 8 point game guy, we're talking about somebody who could be an all league player. I
Yeah,
really believe that.
because
He's
of his
that good on
defense.
defense.
Right.
Yeah. But you can't have, just like on offense translates in college basketball better than defense does. My point is, you can win with a player that's offensively talented and defensively flawed because of scheme. Unfortunately, a defender can't compensate as much for the lack of his offense in college basketball. So that's just the way things are because of the 3-pointer, especially. It just counts for so much. So if he can just get some offense, any at all, make himself a threat just in the offense, and he has the potential. He's athletic enough to be a slasher at least, and his spot. He has a weird looking shot that I hope he's kind of fixed.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the proof will be in the pudding when the season starts, and hopefully the reports we're hearing out of Morgantown are true and that he has improved his shot and his
Yeah,
offensive game. And like I said, those guys are going to be counted on a lot this year to step up and play good basketball and probably play a lot of minutes because they're going to be needed, especially now that Jose's gone. And if the Raekwon Battle waiver doesn't come through, it'll be even more critical. So, well, Paul, I think that about wraps it up for me. Do you have anything else you want to tell the fine folks out there?
don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe. Don't forget about Hoops from the Hills. Don't forget about Couz's Corner and Mountaineer Paul Talk Football as well. That's really all I got.
Yeah, drop a comment below too, guys. Let us know what you think about this Jose Perez situation, and also what you think about the players that are being asked to step up and in the Raekwon Battle waiver situation. I mean, there's not really an update on that right now, but what are your thoughts on the importance of that waiver coming through for this Mountaineer team? Well, guys, we appreciate you tuning in to this show. Thank you for all your support. I know we haven't been getting out as much content as we'd like to here on the channel, but like Paul said early on, it is football season, so our focus has been on that. But we will continue to try to get you at least one show a week, maybe more, and obviously we'll be more frequent as we get closer to the season. We will do our season prediction video as we get closer to game one. I look forward to doing that to see if how close we can come to this year's or to last year's prediction. But with that being said, guys, we thanks again. Don't forget about our sponsor, Dutch Miller Automotive. Please go to DutchMillerAuto.com, check out their website, and go to them for the next time you go to purchase a vehicle. Check out Dutch Miller. With that being said, guys, we are done and we are out.